And so I'm very happy that organizations like Answer exist, because I don't think that there's any doubt in anybody's mind that but for the fact that Answer exists or came into being, many, many people would not be activating themselves and making history in this country, history of change. Anyways, my topic tonight is Bolivia, and I'm going to focus exclusively on Bolivia because I think that that will afford both Gloria and myself time to talk about different experiences, and then she can really expand on our experience in Venezuela at the Social Forum, and then I can just supplement things that she says if I think that I have anything to add. I don't think that after Gloria speaks I will have much more to add, but if she, for unforeseen reasons, forgets something, I'll make sure I'll point it out. Anyways, I went to Bolivia to participate in the assumption of state power by Evo Morales, the first native American from Bolivia to be elected by the majority of the people of Bolivia to the presidency. It hadn't happened since democracy was once again restored to the nation of Bolivia nearly 20 years ago, that one person had actually been overwhelmingly elected and avoided a runoff. It is said that so many native Amairan, meaning Bolivian Indians, were excluded from the voting list that it was incredible that he was actually able to pull it off the way he did. And experts have said that if all the people had been afforded their legal right to vote, that he probably would have been elected by a far higher percentage than the 57% or so percentage of the population that voted him president. People estimate that he could have been elected to office by more than 60%. This is a person that speaks bad Spanish. Anybody that's ever heard him speak. So even though he's president of Bolivia, he's still having to struggle with his Spanish in order to be able to communicate to the entire population of Bolivia. Bolivia is a beautiful country, rich in natural resources, with a population of about 10 million people, of which nearly 70% are either Amaira or Quechua Indians. In other words, they're part of the Inca nation that used to cover about 5 different nations of all of South America. The movement that took Evo Morales to the presidency is a movement that I'm sure you all know goes by the name of Movement Towards Socialism. A lot of people keep asking themselves a lot of questions. Well, it's nice, if you're a progressive person, it sounds like Movimiento al Socialismo, Movement Towards Socialism. But, you have this mixture of people there, a lot of opportunists, or, people that know the internal political dynamic of Bolivia say, well, this is not really a hardcore, militant type of organization that has emerged, through decades of militant struggle. So, must we be rejoicing because, this person that looks Indian and that seems to talk some nice rhetoric every now and then, is talking that he wants to transform society at its core. Is that really what we can expect to happen? Or is this just sort of like a nationalistic kind of movement that when everything is said and done will not be nothing more than just a movement that raised a lot of political expectations on the part of the international progressive community and the people of Bolivia, but ultimately would come to not very much? Well, that was one of the reasons why I went, because I have the same question, and in talking to friends and acquaintances and so on, those are the concerns that we have. And so when I got to Bolivia, to La Paz, the entire city, as well as El Alto, that's how the other city, which is located in the vicinity of La Paz, which is the capital of Bolivia, that's where the airport is located. So I got there, and I got off the plane with the plane, and I went into the lobby, and everybody was wearing really nice clothes. Everything seemed to be in order. You saw a lot of soldiers, these proud, dark, Indian-looking guys, but they all seemed to be very happy, or at least intrigued. They all had an air like, there was something important taking place. And there were all these TV monitors, right? Just a few, because, it's a very modest kind of airport. And I saw that the TVs were reporting some ceremony which was scheduled to take place. They said in a little while in a place called Tiahuanaco. I had never heard the name in my life before, but Tiahuanaco turned out to be an archaeological site, very, very important, where the shamans of Bolivia way back used to get together and hold their sacred ceremonies, where I later learned that's where they concentrated to try to work with cosmic forces and so on and so forth. It is rumored that that's where agents of the Nazi regime went to decades before now to basically study all these esoteric sciences and so on. And that's where the Nazis got the idea and their symbol, the swastika. And the people that are supposed to be knowledgeable about this, they say that the reason why, in their own mystical beliefs, I want to caveat that the reason why the Nazis ultimately failed was because they thought that they understood how to maneuver cosmic forces, and they actually stole the swastika from the cultures of that region, which had this language of symbols, esoteric symbols, and so on and so forth. And that the reason why they failed is because they turn it upside down. In other words, they reverse the symbols and thus unleash forces that we cannot fathom ourselves. But nevertheless, those that know those kinds of things claim that that's what brought about, or that's what influenced their downfall. I'm just letting you know something that I learned. Anyhow, so I went to that place. They have all these archaeological sites. When I got there, the place was closed off. A taxi driver took me 3-hour drive. I wasn't ever expecting to get there, but it looked like an important mystical experience. So I went. And when I got there, they didn't let me in because they said that the place was packed and we couldn't get in. So there were a lot of Indians, a lot of Amira Indians. And so I started agitating them, saying, how can it be? Can you believe that we came all the way from all over the country? I came from L.A., and they're not going to let us in. Can you imagine? All the money we paid and blah, blah. And so they started getting all excited, and we started pushing the fence and blah, blah, blah. And it started getting pretty serious. So eventually they said, hold it, we need to go talk to I don't know who. And eventually they left about 30 of us go in, but about, hundreds of people still couldn't go in. So we went in, and I witnessed one of the most incredible religious, mystical experiences I have ever had in my life. Imagine 30,000 people from all over the world, fenced in at this very mystical place called, it was called the Door of the Sun. And high up on this little, hilltop, right? That's where they had the doorway, what they call the Door of the Sun. And all of a sudden, this Evo Morales person comes over, surrounded by what I presume to be shamans from the region, holy men. And he's dressed as an Indian with a special hat. And so he's going there because he's going to be crowned as the Apu Malku, which I found out means the supreme leader of the indigenous people. Now just imagine, all these images are being transmitted by TV, live, and hundreds of millions of Latin Americans, many of whom still have or trace their roots to indigenous peoples, are watching this thing. And there he is, and then he gives this very rousing speech, and there were people from Germany, from all over the world, and everybody's mystified. And so eventually they call upon all these native peoples from different nations of Latin America, including the United States. And they all go in there and they give them these gifts, which are part of the ceremony to invest them with this religious power, right? Making him the supreme leader of the indigenous people of the Andes region.